Hello, everybody. This is Kelly Cook, Everything Phoenix. Thank you for joining us here today. We are going to kick this off by going in deep on some housing market data and, of course, some really interesting data on water. Now, I just shot a whole separate video, but I'm going to address the water issue or quote unquote issue here in Phoenix right now on this live because we're live and there's no better time to discuss it than right now because I know a lot of you people out there I've probably read headlines in the national media this past week about this water crisis in Phoenix and so on and so forth. I personally had several clients reach out to me and were like, "Well, I may not come down to Phoenix now. I may not buy that second home. May not relocate, whatever." And it's such a shame because we love Arizona, we love Phoenix, and to have this happen is just a travesty. And I'm here to say, guys, that's not the case. It just isn't the case. We're going to break that down and go over a couple articles of talking about that. So you'll know fully the truth, because that's why you watch this show, right? The truth of the water, quote unquote, issue, which there really isn't one, at least in the remotely short term, midterm, in the Phoenix area. So we'll cover all those details as to why I can say that confidently, because I'm not going to give you just one side of the story. I'm going to give you the entire comprehensive aspect of the story, and then you can decide if it's right or wrong for you. Okay? Because that's what we're doing here on this channel. That's what we're all about, right? Everything Phoenix, giving you guys the power, empowering you with data and knowledge to then make your fully informed decisions. All right. Before I go any further, let us know where you're watching from. Where are you guys watching from right now? And put it in the chat if you don't mind. Comment. Let's have a two-way conversation. If you have any questions about anything we talk about today here, anything Phoenix related, let us know. I'd be happy to answer your questions and your comments and read them online here. And if you're watching the replay, comment below and we'll still comment there as well. But let's get a two-way conversation going. It's always more fun as opposed to me just chatting the entire time, right? Anyways, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started, guys. We're going to get started. But thank you for joining us here on Everything Phoenix today. Go ahead and subscribe and hit that like button if you don't mind. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and we're going to talk about the real estate market. Now, before I go to month supply, let me just hit up this really quick. Here's the gauge. Here's the overall status of the housing market today in Phoenix. You can see right now at the Cromford, it is at 162.9. And that means we are heavily a seller's market by data and data alone. Now, the Cromford report, as you can see, the balanced market is 90 to 110. If you're below that, it is a buyer's market. If you're above that, it is a seller's market by data definition. Right now, we're at 162. We are in a seller's market. So it is still a great time to sell. Is that because demand is just so crazy high? No, it is not. Demand actually is actually doing a lot better than it was just a few months ago. But it's still low, relatively speaking, for this time of year in a normal market cycle. It's still somewhat low. The problem is supply is that much lower. And so because supply is so low, demand is looking pretty darn good and keeping the market and the prices up and not going down, right? So there you have it with the overall market supply. You can see supply right there you go. Is at 51, demand's at 84. And that's why the market is at 162. Now, if I come over here on the Cromford market, they have some interesting commentary, as they always do, which I love to share with you guys, right? Because it's just really good stuff, all right? So let's go to June 7th here. And it says, last week was very quiet for new contracts with only 1,589 being accepted across Greater Phoenix. So, guys, last week, there were about 1,600 contracts accepted. Now, that's not because we have a gluttony of homes on the market and no one's buying them. It's because there's not that many homes in the market for people to actually buy. People are willing to spend high 6s to 7% on a rate right now. Not a lot of people, but some people are, right? 1,600 of them. Let's say some of those are cash. And so it's just a little bit lower supply right now. Now it says this followed another quiet week with 1,737. Both these numbers are lower than every week in 2023, except for the first 2 weeks of January, which are always low. So you're starting to see now the number of pending contracts, number of deals, closings actually starting to decrease a little bit. Now, I am going to anticipate, guys, that that's going to decrease probably a little bit more next week and the next week, and possibly all the way through the end of July into early August, because that's the seasonal cycle of the Phoenix housing market. If you have higher interest rates it will continue if it's status quo, which we probably will. If they all of a sudden drop down a point and a half, which is probably not going to happen. But if it did, then you would probably see that reverse, even though it's a slower time for the Phoenix market in the dead of the summer, which is just the opposite of most places across the country, right? All right, so I'm going to share my screen again here, guys, with you. And you can see this graph here, okay? Let me just tell you this real quick. Both demand and supply are low, so we can expect unimpressive volumes during June and probably July too. On the other hand, if rates were to drop back to 6.5 or below, then activity would probably pick up again. You probably think I read that. I actually did not read that line before I went on YouTube Live. That was just me telling you my thoughts, and here the Groundwater report is backing me up. But I track their data religiously, so I should be in lockstep with them. All right, month of supply. This graph right here is interesting. I love what she says. I like this chart, which you can find right here, because it shows clearly the scale of deterioration of the market during the second half of 2022, and also the large improvement we have seen in 2023. This is from the perspective of sellers, since they would benefit from low supply relative to the monthly sales rate. Buyers see things from the opposite perspective. The long-term normal supply is around 3 to 5 months for a zip code like 85142. As we dip below 3 months, usually they get tough for buyers, and we rise above 5 months, things get difficult for sellers. We almost hit 6 months at the start of December and have nearly lost 2/3 of that supply over the past 6 months. That's a big change, folks. So you can see right now that this is month supply. So it skyrocketed the second half of 2022, right? It actually decreased significantly in the first half of 2023, kind of back to where we all began almost last June. We're almost right back there, right, in terms of month supply. That is propping the prices up. Okay. Now, what I love the fact that she says, I love this chart particularly well for this one zip code, because it is a huge zip code with a large sample size. So this is very representative of the Phoenix area in general, so to speak. Okay. That's what she's saying here with the Groundwater report. So if you did a subdivision, if you did a small zip code, the sample size could be skewed and not be very representative of what our market is truly experiencing. Okay. So that's the point of this zip code of 85142. All right. Big zip code. So that's what's going on here, guys. A lot of the same is starting to happen, except for you're starting to see the amount of transactions starting to go decrease, because we're starting to hit that cycle of the summer where it naturally decreases anyways. Okay, now, if I go over here to the suburbs, you guys, I love these gauges, right? These gauges are awesome. And you have these different, so Phoenix right now, 215. Remember, the overall greater Phoenix metro area was 169, blended right here, right? Phoenix, proper Phoenix, right? 215, even more on fire. Supply is very low. Demand is decent, but low. And there you get that. Now let's go to Scottsdale. Okay. Scottsdale is 171. Strong seller's market. Paradise Valley, highest price points in the entire Phoenix area. Paradise Valley, 178. So cash is king. A lot of these ultra luxury properties are still selling for good prices and selling fairly quick. Fountain Hills, another luxury market, 265. Wow. All right, let's go to the East Valley. Gilbert, okay, 226. Wow. Good home prices, affordable home prices still, family area. Chandler, same thing, 294, even stronger. Incredible. Queen Creek's in the Southeast Valley. They're at 116. They're further out, so that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Tempe, 191, in the heart of everything, Tempe. All right, let's go to the West Valley. Avondale, 220. Man, wow, that's incredible. Let's go to Goodyear. Where are you at, Goodyear? There you are. 127. Let's go to Glendale. 270. Glendale's on fire, folks. Wow, that is incredible. So you can see the idea, it matters. Real estate is niche specific. It is micro, not macro. And so if you are going to live in Phoenix, that's one thing. What's going on in Phoenix? Well, the market is blended right now at 162. Okay. But I want to live in Glendale. Okay, cool. Here we go. Glendale's at 270. So that tells you going into it that if you want to be in Glendale, then possibly you're going to have a little bit less negotiating power when you go to buy that house, and homes might be moving faster off the market. Okay. So it's just knowledge to know that when we help clients moving, selling or buying here in Phoenix or any other cities, we pull this data. We're very informed as to what's going on specifically, not just in that city, but that zip code and that subdivision, so we can give our clients the best information to make the best informed decision. All right, now let's move on to some development stuff. Okay, we're going to talk about water. Okay, because we're going to get right into it. You saw the title of our YouTube live here today is called "Headlines Have Consequences." Arizona's economic agency fields hundreds of concern calls of new groundwater reports impact. So you guys probably saw these headlines, which are crazy, talking about what Arizona, Phoenix has a water crisis, right? So my good friend Chris Camacho heads up the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, said his organization has fielded about 200 messages from stakeholders who have raised concerns over Arizona's future. Right now, GPEC, okay, they have 236 companies right now that have inquired and gone through some sort of application process to determine that they want to move part of their business or their headquarters to the Greater Phoenix metro area. That's a lot. That is a ton. And so now people are still doing so, but a lot of these stakeholders, like you just said, are now curious. What's going on, right? They're reading the one-sided story of the water issue. What's going on? So let's dive in, okay? The text calls and emails poured in from national site selectors, investors, their clients wondering if Phoenix Metro could no longer support the substantial growth it has experienced for years in housing, population, and economic development. The answer is, yeah, it can. Okay, but I love what he says. Headlines have consequences. I'm just aghast that there's been this reaction and really the coverage from the national media perspective. We've been in Arizona water planning for decades, and I feel very confident about the future position with water in our state. Okay, and there's Chris right there. But you have the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, you have Intel, LG Energy Solution Group, and you have other things as well, which are companies that are huge, but they also take a lot of water. But did you know that over 85% of all water used for making microchips, wafers, etc., is reclaimed? It's reused, and that's a minimum. Some sources will tell you it's over 90%. So it's not a lot of new water usage to run these large manufacturing companies or plants here in Phoenix. But what we're talking about here with these reports, okay, this report reflects a 4% effect over the next 100 years. I repeat, 100 years. My view is we're going to have technology and we're going to have conservation. We're going to have augmentation to even sustain this much further than 100 years. So it goes on to talk about the report the governor released, saying that Phoenix could see a 4.9 million acre feet shortage of groundwater if no action is taken, meaning mostly home builders on the outskirts of the valley will have to secure resources other than groundwater to build. So you guys understand there's groundwater and there's surface water, right? Two separate things. Surface water obviously is a river. It's a lake. The Colorado River, we get about 44% of all of our water from the Colorado River. Verde River is another one. And so these surface water sources provide a lot of water for the valley. But there's a lot of groundwater. Did you guys know that Arizona has a huge aquifer system? And under Phoenix is one of the largest aquifer systems where a lot of water that's not used, that's in excess, sits there and stores up. Because Phoenix currently has a surplus of water they're entitled to from the Colorado River to the tune of 50,000 acre feet of water per year, they are storing plenty of it in the ground. One of those reasons that's one of the reasons I should say that every single city, every single suburb in the Phoenix metro area, except for right now 2, Buckeye and Queen Creek, they have a 100-year assured water supply certificate. That means just that. They are guaranteeing water for 100 years into the future. It's always a rolling 100 years of future water use as long as you have that certificate. At this time, not one city is reported to be on the fringe of having that taken away that currently has it. Then you take Queen Creek and take Buckeye, who don't have it. Well, did you know in Queen Creek, these are the stats that people won't report on. Queen Creek, 92% of the water in Queen Creek, of the area in Queen Creek is assured water for 100 years. 8% of it not. That is not. That equates to about, I think, 9,000 to 10,000 homes in Queen Creek. That's it. And they have 10 to 15,000 lots in the Queen Creek area with the water certificate already plotted, ready to go to be built. that will be built. So it's interesting when you hear one side of the story, what is going on. Now, also too, some solutions are actually really cool, guys. You have a new water plants in design to be built right now. You have these well system they're doing some technology there too as well. What's interesting is you have the lower basin states. We covered this. Lower basin states, which are California, Arizona, and Nevada, have all agreed already on a 3-year temporary plan to save 10% of their current water usage over those 3 years. That will equal somewhere in the ballpark about 3 million acre feet. Okay, Arizona's taking a lion's share of that shortage. 55% savings or cutback in water use. Now, that being said, not one Arizonan and or business, according to the governor, if she's telling the truth, is ever going to be asked to curtail the lifestyle the way it currently is. Most of that savings of that cutback is going to be around mostly agricultural, and then of course through technology that's going to make water more efficient, the use of clean water more efficient. So that's interesting to see how that plays out. And there's a lot of argument there, guys, because some people argue, well, California, why are they not taking a bigger cut? Why are we taking 55% of that 3 million acre feet over 3 years? And why is California only taking 30%? And I don't have all the answers. A lot of people say California wastes a lot of this water. They run some of it off into the ocean. There's all kinds of reports about that, but I can't comment on that because we're everything Phoenix, not everything California. But what I do know is what our governor has decided to do and made that pact with those 3 states. And so we'll see how that plays out past 2026. Another solution that a lot of people haven't talked about is a desalination plant. Now, this is interesting. This desalination plant would actually be located in Rocky Point, Mexico at the Sea of Cortez. It would cost $5.5 billion to build. Who's covering that bill? This is even more interesting. An Israeli company that already runs one of these plants over in Israel would be actually building this plant and paying for the cost of building the plant. The catch is they'd be able to produce or turn 1 million acre feet of water each year from saltwater to freshwater and pump it into Arizona, into the Central Arizona Project system, the canal system, each year. But they won't do it if there's not a contractual guarantee that we will continue to use that water and buy that water from them for a certain amount of time. What that time is, no idea. What the rate, fees, and all that stuff, no idea. But I'm assuming it would be hopefully around the same charges that we currently pay for water supply at our house, at our water spigot, where we currently live right now in our respective cities. We'll see. I don't know. But the cool thing is there'll be no upfront capital to have to build this thing. They're going to cover the cost. We just have to guarantee that we're going to buy that water from them, assuming it's fresh and it's all good and all that stuff, right? For years and years to come. So we'll see what happens there, guys, because there's plenty of water in the oceans. We just can't use it because it's salt water. So how do we turn that into fresh water? It's an expensive process. Obviously, a plant like this, $5.5 billion, it'd be the largest desalination plant in the entire world, located right there at Puerto Penasco, Rocky Point, Mexico. So we'll see what happens, guys, if that gets done. But that's one of the solutions they're looking at for super long term here in Arizona. But guys, please understand, we right now in pretty much all the Phoenix area have a rolling 100-year of guaranteed water supply in the ground, let alone the surface. Colorado River, Verde River, Lake Powell, Lake Mead. Oh, here's a fun fact. Did you know that since April, Lake Powell, which is up there by Page, Arizona, right, the border of Utah, Lake Powell has been increasing 1 foot a day. 1 foot a day. You know how big Lake Powell is? That is a lot of water. Been increasing 1 foot a day since April. And so you watch this chart from Lake Powell. You can Google Lake Powell water line, and it'll show this report. And all of a sudden, April. So that's awesome news. There's a lot of snow and rainfall and that sort of thing this past winter. So this is really helping. Now, obviously, we can't guarantee it's going to be like that in the future, but it's great that it's actually starting to be restored to an extent. So that's a piece of good news that I haven't seen any articles on. Why? Because it ain't that cool. It's not fear. It won't sell, right, with the media. So anyways, I'm glad you're watching YouTube live to get the real facts. Okay, now sharing my screen back over here. Some more information about the water I want to share with you guys here. And this is right here. This article right here talks about the governor and what when she came out with this article last week, about certain developments in the far outskirts of the valley having to pause their construction because no one's going to guarantee them a 100 water supply, year water supply. They have to get their water on their own. So these developers. Oh, by the way, there's the aquifer. You can see right there. So here's the I-17. Here's the I-10 interstate. This is all Metro Phoenix right through here, and you can see this aquifer that kind of sits below most of the development. So a lot of this new development we're talking about that's going to be paused, at least temporarily, is out here on the I can't pronounce it. The Hasayampa water basin. So there is water, for example, the Howard Hughes development, which is going to be 37,000 acres, I believe. It is huge. That's been approved by the city of Buckeye, town of Buckeye. That is that there's groundwater right below the homes, but they're not approved to use that groundwater because they don't want to have them suck it all up. And they're not going to give them that certificate for 100 years of water. Does that make sense? So hopefully that makes sense. So water's there. There's some contractual, some political things that has to be worked out. But nonetheless, we should all be on board, try to conserve water. Please hear me. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the media will report one way and not tell you the other side most of the time. And unfortunately, in this situation, it caused a lot of scare that really isn't necessary right now because since 1980, specifically when Arizona passed their first groundwater conservatory piece of legislature, they've been passing new revised laws ever since then. So this is nothing new for Phoenicians, especially when it comes to the people who work in the Senate and the government, right? And the water department resource and all that fun stuff. Okay. Oh, here we go. We got a comment. Mr. or Mrs. Perez, what do you think of Kierland for a single guy looking to rent? Oh man, I love it. I love the question. So I think it's a phenomenal place. Now, if you're depends on okay, just because you're single doesn't mean you're young, right? You could be, maybe in your 30s or 40s. When I say young, I mean like 20s, right? So if here's my thoughts on this. If you're single, okay, and mind you, I haven't been single for 14 plus years, right? But if you are, I would say, and you're in your 20s, like early 20s, I would say definitely Old Town Scottsdale. Late 20s, Old Town Scottsdale as well. I'd be in that area for all that action. If I'm probably going to be more of a younger professional in my early 30s to 30s, even into the 40s, Kierland, absolutely great place to be. It's really, especially with the Optima condos that just came there and all the Scottsdale Quarter and all the shops and dining restaurants and bars. Good place to be there if you're single. So good question. I haven't had one about single and that kind of stuff. So yeah, great question. Let me know if you have any other questions regarding that. I'll do my best, even though I've been single for a while. All right. So here we go. Share my screen and one more piece on this water thing because I'm over here talking about water and we're getting questions about, living where you're single. So I can spin and go either way I have to. I got to be versatile on everything Phoenix here. All right. So back here, another thing real quick about water I want to share. Okay. Brookfield Residential, which is a company based out of New York, closes escrow with the first home builder, which is Lennar, in a new East Valley community, which is just on the east side of Eastmark, which is out there in Mesa / Apache Junction. Okay. And it's called Blossom Rock, a 1,400 acre site in Blossom Rock. And there it is. There's the plot of land. And then you can see Eastmark way over here, Cadence and Eastmark. Okay. And so it's going to be east there. And there's going to be a boatload of homes. In fact, 5,000 homes to be developed on that plot of land. And yes, they do have an assured water supply certificate for 100 years on this land. Okay. So, but the interesting thing is water at the communities. This is now a big topic all of a sudden, right? For all this new home construction. So look what they say here. Okay. They're working together to develop a $50 million non-potable water system that will collect and treat affluent water and use it for landscaping and neighborhood parks throughout the entire 2,800 acres. And then we're continuing to provide housing for the massive demand that is here in Arizona while not taxing our infrastructure systems too much and damaging our water supply. Okay, so they have the assured water supply certificate for 100 years for the 5,000 homes, blah, blah, blah. And so the cool thing is just that, right? That they have a non-potable water system. New technology is starting to come into play. And not necessarily like brand new technology for a non-potable water system, but the fact that they never really had or can really consider using something like that, something additional, something extra in the past, and now they are, is a great thing, right? I mean, if you take a shower and the water is just, and you can collect that water before having to send it back to get it all, cleaned again to run back to your house, why not use that water that you took a shower on and just water the grass and the plants? I mean, it seems pretty Cool to me. I don't know. But I'm not a technology water kind of guy. I only know so much, right? Just enough to be dangerous. Okay. So some development news here, real quick. I want to talk about this. We always talk about this, and I got a cool story with this one, guys. So Denver-based apartment developer finishes first Arizona project plus 5 more real estate deals to know. You always need to know what's going on in real estate. Some of these are kind of like, not so hot, but some of these are kind of cool. But here's a 164 unit apartment community now open and leasing in Chandler, Arizona. By the way, another fun fact. I'm full of these today. Okay. Did you know that if you build a rental project, a build to rent housing community, a apartment complex, did you know that in the state of Arizona, you don't have to you don't have to ensure there's a 100-year water supply for those people living in your rental? Isn't that crazy? I would think, but they don't. It's only for homes or properties that are going to be sold and owned by individuals. So that is a fun fact, and that's interesting. Anyways, going back to these apartments here, that's a big deal. It's a lot of units, right? It's a big complex. And then you have the same company doing now a 324-unit apartment community in Glendale, opening fall 2024. So major construction, major housing units being produced here in the Phoenix area. Population is exploding. Okay. And then you have this deal right here was sold. Okay. Multifamily, 100 and some units, I think, right? 46 units, sorry. And then this one here, this hotel traded hands for $20-some million, $29 million for this Residence Inn in North Scottsdale. That's wild. And then this is the cool one I'm going to tell you about. Okay. These Tempe Flex buildings that are just acquired. A San Diego private investor acquired a pair of Tempe Flex warehouse buildings. And this is the LLC. But fun fact, these same buyers for these two large buildings also bought one of our listings here recently in Scottsdale. So they bought one of our listings. Can't say what it is, but it's a nice one. And they were the buyer on that too as well. So pretty cool to see them buying some really large real estate too on the commercial side. And then, of course, the Safeway anchored shopping center sold as well for $14 million. Okay, moving on. Phoenix, as I said in the headline, named as one of the 5 U.S. workforce hubs focused on manufacturing jobs. All right, that's interesting, right? I think it's pretty cool. Obviously, we have the microchips. That's manufacturing. But Phoenix is one of the 5 cities. And we'll go down here and with the U.S. government tabbed 5 cities. Where are they at? Right here. The 4 other metros. So you got Phoenix, right? It's 1. You got Columbus, Ohio, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Baltimore, and Augusta, Georgia, home of the Masters. Hello, friends. Most of which have also seen significant expansions in different manufacturing sectors, right? So that's kind of cool. Phoenix is on the map for a manufacturing community. And I had something highlighted down here, but I think, by the way, there's the picture of the Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing plant. That's just part of it, right? You can't see it is huge, ginormous. And it's going to employ, just bring thousands of high-paying jobs to North Phoenix area, okay? Phoenix is ranked #1 destination in the country for talent attraction and retention and is a leading international destination for advanced manufacturing projects, said Sandra Watson, CEO of the Arizona Commerce Authority. We look forward to working with the city of Phoenix and all of our state, local, and federal partners to further Arizona's reputation as a workforce center of excellence. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. And then here we go. Recently, this is back to my buddy Chris Camacho. Greater Phoenix Economic Council hosted its largest ever delegation of 60 international companies. International. Not just domestic here, right? Mostly from Asia in the semiconductor and automotive industry, signaling its growth in manufacturing, while the region has seen a boost in interest from international investment, guys. So right now, as an example, if we're going to sell a luxury home in Phoenix, you don't need a lot of international exposure. Why? Because Phoenix just doesn't have a lot of that international flair when it comes to, investment dollars pouring in to buy, luxury real estate. Whether that's good or bad, that's just what it is, right? Where if you have a home in Los Angeles, for example, you need that's worth $10 million. You probably need to market that. Not probably. You need to market that property with some international marketing. Okay, but in Phoenix, we just don't have. Now this is looking to change, right? I mean, right here, the GPEC just had its largest delegation of 60 international companies. 60. So that doesn't mean they're all coming, but it's just putting Phoenix more and more on that global scale, which is kind of cool overall, right? All right. So, here we go. There's the article about it, right? The 60 companies. Now, this is an interesting article here. Intel is investing currently $50 billion in their Chandler campus here, and they that reinvestment is really, really cool to see because it's a giant of a company that employs a lot of people, and they're not going anywhere. They're not worried about what the national media is saying about this water thing because they know the facts. Anyways, this is just a cool article, I guess, real quick, because they just talks about them selling a huge stake in one of their companies that they started up actually, or I should say bought, and then doubled its value, and now they're selling it. So they need that. You know why? Here's why. Because they had 2 consecutive losing quarters, Intel, and in the first quarter, they recorded a record $2.8 billion with a B dollar loss in just one quarter of 2023 here. So they need some capital, and they're going to get it by getting, I think, like 15 billion or something from the sale of this. I'm sorry, $1.5 billion stake in this company, right? So that's some capital they need because, like I said, they lost 2.8 billion in one quarter alone earlier this year. So, and at the same time, they're reinvesting 20 billion into their new campus in Chandler. So they're doubling down on their efforts, knowing that they're trying to get ramped back up from COVID, right? Everything shut down, chip shortage, and all this stuff, right? So they're trying to ramp back up, and I suspect they will because the world runs on microchips. All right, a few more articles, guys, and we are out of here. Okay, this is interesting. So commercial real estate, it's falling, right? It's going backwards. It's crashing. And maybe it will have some hard times here in the short term. I'm not saying it won't. But right now, in Phoenix at least, Desert Ridge Marketplace, which has I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of square feet of lease space. Now, granted, this is retail space. It has, but it's 100% leased. I mean, it's unbelievable, right? There's so many different buildings, and especially retail right now in Phoenix is doing very, very well. Okay, so this just talks about, by the way, Desert Ridge is awesome. If you have a chance to go there, you should. It's located just on the west side of Scottsdale at the border north of the 101. And so it has a lot of, just amazing restaurants, shops. You can pretty much get anything you want there for the most part. And of course, some amazing housing located around Desert Ridge too as well. We sell a lot of houses there. Lori, what's going on? Phoenix is finally getting recognized as the place to bring big companies to the valley. I know it's been a long time coming. Matter of fact, I think if we would have had this kind of recognition back in 2004, 5, 6, 7, before everything collapsed, we would have still collapsed like everyone else did in the country, but it wouldn't have been so big. Back then, Phoenix went, straight nosedive. The reason why primarily is because there's obviously big time speculation and all that stuff, but there wasn't a lot of jobs, good paying companies, corporations to back up all the income people claim they had. Phoenix was primarily, at the time, I think Phoenix had 2 Fortune 500 companies based in the entire state of Arizona, actually, at the time, I believe. And it was a big service-based city in terms of industry. Now it's all now we are so diversified with large corporations coming here. It's just a different dynamic, which is really, really cool to see. Manufacturing that we just talked about. You have healthcare, tech. It's just going in a lot of different directions, and really cool to see Phoenix transform into that. All right. Quirico, if I said your name correctly, hopefully, if I mispronounce it, I'm sorry. I can definitely say your last name correctly, Perez. Okay, so Mr. or Mrs. Perez, which one you are. Are there any neighborhoods which are poised to strongly benefit from the semiconductor plant? Perhaps because of proximity, access to highways, condo offerings. Yeah, there is, no doubt about it. So if you look up the I-17 corridor in Phoenix, they're right off the I-17 corridor on the west side of the I-17. This big plant is going up. Some of the houses have already been sold around that area, and they've been sold on a corporate reload already, and they paid amazing prices. Like these homeowners who are selling they got top dollars, put it that way. And that's going to continue to happen. I do believe that home values in that North Phoenix area will continue to rise. So you're looking at neighborhoods up there that are going to benefit from this, in my opinion. Fireside at Ortera. Let's see what else. Valley Vista. Stetson Valley, Anthem, Tremonto. There's quite a few up there, obviously, but those are some of the bigger subdivisions right there in the I-17 as you go up to Happy Valley, up to Carefree Highway, and there's more on as well. But any of that neighborhoods up there, I think would do very well to, if you're speculating to maybe buy a rental house or maybe to buy a house for yourself to live in, and then one day sell, because it's going to appreciate. We have a housing supply to begin with, and then we throw those jobs and all the activity up there, because not only is TSMC building that huge plant there, but there's a lot of industrial suppliers that plant needs. So these suppliers are building plants and leasing industrial space along the 303 corridor as well, to be able to supply them. So they get the contracts, right, to be able to supply them, and because they're going to make a lot of money. They're very lucrative. So yes, I think that's you're thinking exactly along the right lines. Now, if you want the action because you're single, Kierland, Old Town Scottsdale Quarter, yes, that's where you want to be. If you want to drive a little bit to get that action, but maybe have a better play on appreciation in the next 5 years, North Phoenix is a good bet. Okay, no doubt. All right, so a couple more articles, guys. This is interesting. And this Paradise Valley home just sold for a record number. So I want to bring this up because, a record number meaning not a dollar amount, but a price per square foot, over $1,400 a square foot. This home right here sold for, and just goes to show you the resiliency right now of the current luxury home market in Phoenix. Okay, Paradise Valley, Scottsdale. We have several properties listed over $5 million ourselves, and they are selling. So it's several under contract. So it's a good time to be in the luxury home market with a good product that people really want to buy, because there's plenty of cash on the sidelines, guys. I promise you there is. All right. So 2 more articles real quick. You guys probably saw this. The PGA Tour. Got to throw a little sports business into this, right? I'm a sports guy. The PGA Tour and Live Golf merge. Holy cow. I don't know if this is good. I'm not sure if this is bad. I don't know. At the end of the day, I am a golf fan. But it depends on who you talk to. Some people are dead set against it. Other people are like, yeah, this is going to be great. What I just kind of worry about or wonder about is the sole investor for this merger. You guys know who it is, right? The sole investor for this merger is the Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, PIF, which has $650 billion in assets. And they obviously bankrolled Live and started that league. And so that's the sole investor. That's the prime investor for this merger. So, people, when they start to, if you don't like some of the things that some of these other countries try to impose, right, on maybe other cultures, and guys, I'm not trying to get political here. I'm just saying, like it's how Saudi Arabia treats some of their own residents, right, and that sort of thing may not be exactly what the U.S. values stand for. It'll be interesting to see if that's their way to kind of weasel their other things into the fabric. Hopefully not. Hopefully they're just going to invest, make some money, and go about their way. But I'm not sure if that's the case. But nonetheless, did you know that Tiger Woods turned down $800 million to be part of Live? Said no, right? Or maybe it's $700 million and Rory turned down $8. I mean, it's crazy, right? Wow. Abby, what's going on? I'm interested to see what happens with this merger. Need more details for sure. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. It will. It'll be interesting to see if any of these players still qualify for the PGA card next year. I mean, what if some of these players they got lazy because Live, you're just whatever, and they don't practice that hard, or like their skills diminish and they go for their PGA card and don't get it. That would be kind of interesting. So anyways, I had to throw that in there. And one last article for you guys, and we'll wrap this thing up. If you have a teenager, you will love this article, right? Competition for teen workers is increasing in tight labor market, and so is their pay. Hallelujah. Get the teenager off the couch and have them start to get to work. All right, here we go. That's because he's a GOAT. Yeah, Tiger Woods, all right? Tiger doesn't need their money. Isn't that something? So let me just the person who doesn't need the money says no. I'm not saying that's the only thing you judge something by, but if that person says no because he doesn't need the money, maybe there's something to be said there about that's not the most best a golf league to join. I don't know. But it is interesting nonetheless and something to chew on. But going back to this article, competition for teen workers is increasing in tight labor market, and so is their pay. All right, so here's some teens, I guess, right? Maybe not. But I highlighted a couple things here. I think I just took it off. All right, where is it at here? Teens. Here we go. Teenagers will also get paid more this summer than last summer, with wage growth about 9% higher last year, according to Gusto, averaging about $14.56 per hour, which is unbelievable. I mean, my first job as a teenager was at a grocery store, and I was bagging groceries, and I literally never forget. I remember I was making $4.25 an hour, and I thought that was okay. I was a teenager. But now, I mean, I guess you have inflation, right? So, 'cause I'm pretty old. And 14.56, man, I just could never imagine that a teenager. Overall, the share of teenagers working in June has been rising at a time when the share of 25 to 54-year-olds has been falling, with much of the growth in teen hiring due to large demographic trends in the labor force. Okay, that's interesting. So more teens are working, and the 25 to 54-year-olds are saying, "Screw it," right? I don't know. But the industries they're predominant in right now and they're resilient in, because it's temporary, right? Because they have to go to high school or whatever, or college, such as recreation, food service, and personal services. Those are the industries they're having the biggest impact on, which makes sense, right? You have to staff up for busy seasons for certain things, and you have to staff down for busy seasons on some of these industries, right? So, interesting articles, I thought, right? So if you have a teenager, there is hope. There's hope. Have them go to work. They will make some decent money, and they can pay for their own car. All right. So, guys, thank you very much. I appreciate your time as always on Everything Phoenix. Hopefully, to recap, you got the data over drama when it comes to the water issue in Phoenix. And I'll leave you with one last thing. The gal who runs the Center for Water Conservation for Arizona State University said a quote, and I'm going to paraphrase this. She said, "There is no crisis for water in Phoenix at this time," right? She said, "There is no crisis at all, really, for the next 100 years. If there was a crisis," and she put in quotation marks, she said, "the crisis would be trying to figure out how you maintain that rolling 100 years of guaranteed water supply," right? And that is going to always be a challenge. Obviously, you and I watching the show will probably be long and gone, right? Because I probably won't live to be 100 plus years old. But nonetheless, for the people, for our kids, our grandkids, if they want to live in Phoenix, it'd be great to have that water, right? So there you have it. There's the real deal on the water. And guys, I appreciate you. Subscribe, like our channel. We appreciate all the support and the comments and the collaboration. And as always, guys, don't forget to stay classy, Phoenix. See you next time.